Good evening, everyone. My name is John Taves, and I'm the event coordinator here at McNally Robinson Booksellers. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that McNally Robinson is located here in Treaty 1 territory. That's the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, the homeland of the Métis Nation. In addition, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. We have a very special treat here this evening for you, so I won't take up too much of your time with some exciting housekeeping notes at the beginning of this event, but we are so delighted that you could be here both in person, here in the space, and virtually to all those watching on YouTube as well. We are here, of course, to celebrate the launch of the first 2 books in Linda Trin's series of early chapter books, The Nguyen Kids, The Secret of the Jade Bangle, and The Power of the Pearly Rings. I would now invite you all to applaud for Linda Trin. We have a real treat for you in store for you tonight as well. We have a special guest host, Jodi Carmichael, who will be speaking to Linda, and also 2 very special guests who will also be speaking and reading tonight. But you'll hear more about all of them in just a moment. So to give you a sense of how this evening will go, there'll be a series of presentations and readings from this podium right here. Following that, we'll move along to these tall stools to my left, where there'll be a conversation. And following that, there'll be an opportunity for all of you to ask questions of Linda. That applies to both you watching live on YouTube. If you have any questions, just write them into the chat, and we'll be sure to put them to Linda as time permits. And if you're here, please just hold up your hand. I'll run over to you, like Phil Donahue, and I'll then ask you to ask me the question, and I'll then repeat it into the microphone. As I can't possibly do justice to the eloquence of an extended question or a reflection, all I'd ask is that you please do keep it as a relatively short question, because rest assured you'll have ample time to interrogate Linda when you get to the signing table immediately afterward. Following that, I'll ask you all to remain in place at the close of the event, and then we'll bring Linda over to the signing table, and the signing will commence. And I'll have more exciting information for you about how you can get a book signed once the event is through, so please hold on for that. I won't take up too much of your time right now because I really want to get to the meat of this wonderful event. We're so grateful to Anik Press for not only publishing these books, but for ensuring that tonight could happen, so huge thanks to Anik. You'll be hearing in a little while from our host for this evening. That will be Jodi Carmichael. Jodi is a multi-award-winning author and a champion for the underdog and for kids who think differently. Like Lou in her latest book, The Unique Lou Fox, Jodi has ADHD and celebrates the creativity, empathy, and adventurousness it brings to her life. Her other books include the YA novel, Forever Julia, which won the Manitoba Book Award and the Bronze Moonbeam Award, the middle grade novel, Family of Spies, Paris, and the chapter book, Spaghetti is Not a Finger Food, and Other Life Lessons, which won the Silver Moonbeam Award and the Silver Benjamin Franklin Award. Jodi lives in Winnipeg with her family. Our guest of honor this evening, Linda Trin, is a Vietnamese-Canadian author who writes fiction and nonfiction for children and adults. She explores identity, cultural background, and spirituality. Her work has appeared in anthologies and literary magazines such as The Fiddlehead, Room, This Magazine, and Prairie Fire. She has been nominated for 2 National Magazine Awards. The Nguyen Kids is her first children's book series. She spends a lot of time staring out her window, daydreaming, and pacing around the house, writing in her head way before she types out anything. She lives with her family here in Winnipeg. Please give a very warm welcome to Linda Trin.
Hi, everyone. It's so amazing to be here. I just wanted to thank John, and thanks so much to McNally Robinson for hosting this event. I've attended launches here as part of the audience, and I've spent time browsing the shelves over the years, so it's pretty surreal to have my own launch. And so I'm so grateful to everyone here in the room with me tonight and watching online. So I see family friends, I see friends like family, writing friends, work friends, my kids' friends. And I think there's people in the audience too who I don't know personally, so I think that's really cool. So thanks everyone for coming. And hi to everyone who is joining online. So there might be friends and family from Winnipeg, from Charlottetown, different parts of Ontario, Victoria, Los Angeles, Aruba, and perhaps Vietnam. So it feels really overwhelming to be here with this sense of support. My childhood dream has always been to be a writer and to publish. So I've been seriously working towards the dream for about 10 years and really working towards the dream for about 5 years, taking courses, being part of mentorships, learning and improving the craft of writing. And so I've really been concentrating on writing for adults, which gave me, I think, the foundation to write for kids. So I kind of harnessed and adapted all of that for young readers. And I really think that's kind of what led me here today. So I just want to take a moment to talk about the books and the series and how they came into the world, since they are my first book babies ever. The Nguyen Kids series is an early chapter book series. So it's good for young readers who are just starting out to read independently. And then I would say it's good for all readers, that the language is accessible, it's easy to understand, and hopefully the stories are interesting to readers of all ages. So my mom told me last week, this might be the first time I cry tonight. My mom told me last week that she read the first book and her English isn't fluent. And so my work for adults, it hasn't been quite the same, but she was able to read it herself. The chapters are short, the font is large enough, and they're about family stories. And so it was just really good to be able to share that. So the Nguyen kids are siblings Anne, Liz, and Jacob, and each sibling receives a gift from their grandma Noi, who recently passed away. So these gifts connect them to their ancestors and help them explore who they are. Each of the first 3 books are from the perspective of each sibling. So The Secret of the Jade Bangle is from the perspective of the eldest, Anne, who was 9 at the time. And the second book, The Power of the Pearl Earrings, is from the perspective of the middle kid, Liz, who is 8 when the book happens. And then there's a third book and a fourth book as well. So I'm feeling very excited, very blessed to be able to introduce my book family to readers. It's been quite a journey. It's been nonstop for about over a year and a half. It was about January last year when I was querying my creative nonfiction, my memoir, to publishers. And so I saw this call out from Annick Press. It was a mentorship program supporting writers who have been historically excluded from children's publishing. And so I say this a lot to my husband. I say to Ryan, it's like, the signs, Ryan, what about the signs? I'm watching for the signs. And so it just seemed like this call out was something that I should be paying attention to, that, is this the moment that I make a shift over and try something that's really, really hard and try to write for kids? So I knew that if I was going to apply for this, I've had amazing opportunities for a mentorship in the past. I've worked with Kate Bitney through the Manitoba Writers Guild, Mei Q Wong through Diaspora Dialogues. I've taken a course with Lindsay Wong, and I still have her voice in my head. It's like, what are the stakes? What are the emotional stakes? So I try to apply what I've learned through mentorship through everything. And so when I was thinking about, well, I think I need some help. I think I need some feedback from someone who writes for children. It's like, who can I bug to help me? Jodi! So Jodi Carmichael, I knew from social media, and I was following her publishing journey through Family of Spies online, and she just seemed so kind and so open. we had sat next to each other just by accident at a writing workshop. And so when I reached out to her, it's like, Jodi, I don't know if you remember me, but can you please help me? So she was so open to it and so generous with her time to look over my proposal and the first draft. And yeah, I couldn't think of a better person to be my host and to walk this journey with me today. So working with Anik Press has just been really, really amazing. I'm really glad that I've been able to connect through them. So I was so blessed that they were able to support my vision of what I wanted to do with the stories and the themes around social justice issues. And it's been amazing working with them. I really want to thank Katie Hearn, who has been my editor through the whole series, and just thanking everyone through the revision and editing process, and now the marketing and promotion process. They give me the space to create, and also they give me the care to be who I am. So thanks to Anik for their continued support. So the illustrations in the book are also so important and add so much to the story. I'm really excited for people to see that. I wanted the illustrator Clayton Nguyen to be a part of the launch, and so I invited him to share his own thoughts. He sent me something that I want to read now. So this is in Clayton's words. As the youngest of 3 kids growing up in Ottawa, I related immediately to the Nguyen Kids when it was first described to me. Our family also had an older sister with longer hair, a sporty middle sister, and an artsy youngest brother with a bowl cut hairstyle. That was me. When I was small, there weren't a lot of stories that resembled me around, and so I'm grateful that I can contribute to a series that I wish I had back then. I ended up using elements of my childhood when designing characters, environmental designs to help add a layer of authenticity. I tried to inject as much detail and whimsy where I could to create something that I hope a new generation of kids would find fun and inspiring. So thank you, Clayton, so much for adding that. So I just want to end off by offering my own thanks to my family, to my friends, and to my writing community, just for their encouragement and support, all their insightful conversations, all of their ideas, just their well wishes and their excitement, sharing that part of myself, that writing part. And I just wanted to thank my cousins as well. I feel like we're so lucky to be able to get together and celebrate what's going on in each other's lives. And I wanted to give a special shout out to my cousin Man. Happy birthday, Man. And thanks so much for spending part of your birthday with me. Thanks to my mom and sister for logistics, sometimes for babysitting the kids so that I would have more time writing. But also throughout the years for believing in me and my dreams and for being my biggest fans. To my husband, Ryan, for all the big things, but all the small things that happen on a daily basis. Unfortunately, you're the one who's always there to listen to all of my self-doubt, who has to be the one to read all of the drafts, and also there to share in all the joys. I could not do life without you. And to all of Ryan's family, who are my family, your support just means so much, Mom and Dad. And finally, I'd like to thank my kids who were a big help to me during the writing process. My daughter Lexi was always my first reader. She had some really good points in logic. She would read the first draft of all of the stories. I think in the first book, I really wanted to create the sense of the main character, Anne, that she was feeling isolated, she was feeling lonely. And so Lexi read the first draft and she's like, Mama, Anne's 9, you left her at home by herself. I was like, oh, okay, I gotta go back. That's not gonna work out. I gotta try something different. And then Evan was so helpful, just trying to, giving me a way into kid lingo and what actually happens in school. So I would ask him, Evan, is it afternoon recess? Is it PM recess? Is it second recess? So he would know. Is it called a projector in school anymore? Do you use a whiteboard? Like, what would the kids say these days? So he was very helpful in that. Yeah, so with that, because the kids were so helpful, participated so much, I wanted them to be part of the launch as my special guests. So thanks so much for listening to me. Just talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, give all my thanks. We'll move on to the reading. So I'm going to do a reading of a chapter from the first book. And because it's a launch of both books, I wanted to give both book babies the same chance to shine. So Liz, who's the second child, middle child, I want her story and her own voice to be heard too. I think she would be very annoyed if her eldest sister got more attention than she did. So after I do the reading from the first book, and my daughter will do a reading from Liz's story from the second book. Secret of the Jade Bangle, Chapter 1. Family Ghosts. I and Nguyen believe in ghosts. Not the kind of ghosts that hide in dark corners and yell boo. Not scary ghosts, but family ghosts. Dad and Mom say we Vietnamese believe the spirits of our the spirit of our family, our ancestors, stay with us after they pass away. They hear our prayers, they watch out for us. My grandma Noi died in early spring, but we still remember her. Today is the new moon, the day each month we make offerings on her altar. It is my job as the eldest child, I'm 9, to clean the altar set up in our dining room. As I wipe down the framed picture of Grandma Noi's smiling face, I smile. I look forward to offering days. They make me feel closer to her. On the altar, there are 3 ceramic bowls of jasmine rice, 3 cups of black tea, barbecue pork, kale salad, lasagna, apples, and oranges. We invite the ancestors to share in our meal. My 7-year-old sister, Elizabeth, brings out the chopsticks, and I line them up neatly next to the bowls. You're super helpful, Liz. Thanks. She grins at me. Attention makes her light up. I miss her, Liz whispers. I hug Liz. Me too. Grandma Noi came to all my ballet shows. She brought my favorite flowers, pink carnations. She slipped me guava candies when Mom and Dad weren't looking. I loved when she put both her hands on my face. The green jade bangle she wore was cold and smooth along my chin. Mom sets out chocolate chip cookies on the altar. We are ready. I rearranged the cookie platter. Everyone in my family knows that I like things super nice and neat. I look over at my 6-year-old brother playing on the couch. Jacob, no more messes. We're having dinner soon. Not yet. Grandma Noi eats first, he replies without looking up from his small building blocks. I shake my head. Jacob may be spoiled as the baby of the family, but he pays attention. Dad takes out 5 joss sticks, long and skinny incense, and lights them. He hands one to each of us, me, Liz, Jacob, and Mom. Dad closes his eyes. He begins to whisper his prayers, like the rest of the family. It sounds half English and half Vietnamese. I only know a few Vietnamese words. I hold the joss sticks with both hands and close my eyes. I cough as the flowery smell fills my nose and reaches down my throat. I say very softly, "Hi, Grandma Noi, it's me, Anne. We went on vacation to Vancouver to visit Mom's family. I can't believe grade 4 starts in a couple weeks. Mrs. Smith's invitation-only ballet class starts the middle of September, too. This is going to be a super great year. I miss you."
The Power of the Pearl Earrings. Chapter 2, Golden Boy. "I like your earrings," my friend Lucy says to me a few days later on the first day of school. I smile as I sit at the desk beside her. "Thanks, I like your shoes." I look around. New classroom, new teacher. I can't wait. I touch my earrings and feel a rush of wind. I can almost hear Grandma Noi's laughter through them. Weird. Rohan sits at the desk on my other side. Gershom is in front of me, and Aiden is behind me. It's so awesome to be surrounded by friends. Our teacher, Mrs. Goodman, stands at the front. Welcome everyone to grade 3. Before we do attendance, in our class we have 2 new students to our school. Welcome Rosa. Rosa's family just came to Winnipeg from the Philippines. Rosa stands up but looks down at the floor. I like the color of her shirt. It's pink like Auntie High's roses. And welcome Michael, Mrs. Goodman continues. A boy at the back stands up and waves. Michael reminds me of the Golden Boy statue that is at the very top of an important building downtown, shiny and cool. Hey, we moved from Victoria. I need a parka soon, right? Like next month? He says. I giggle along with some other girls. Some of the boys wave to him. They both seem so cool. I can't wait for recess to make even more friends. Miss Perfect, our cousin Hal, and Jennifer, all in grade 5, come over to say hi at morning recess. I say hey quickly and pull Rohan away. I want my own friend group and not to be Anne's tag-along sister. I check on Jacob hanging out at the grade 2 doors. He's 1 year younger than me, 7 years old. I can't help looking out for him, even though he's the baby of the family and gets everything he wants. He runs in circles with his hockey friends, Nam and Caden. He's okay, so I turn back to my friends. Rohan and I stand in the field with Aiden, Gershom, Lucas, Madiha, and Lucy. Some other friends come over. Rohan and I start punching and kicking the air. I wave Rosa to come over. I want her to meet my friend. That's my fave kind of pink, I say to her. She doesn't say anything. I point at her pink shirt and my pink bracelet and do a thumbs up. She smiles. And I smile even more. Michael comes over to join us. What's up? He doesn't look like the new kid. He's smiling at everyone and looking relaxed. If this was my first day at a new school, I'd so want to throw up. Practicing our moves, I say. Liz has the best moves, Aiden says. Gershom, you pretend to fall when I come at you, I say and step toward him. Way to go, Liz, Lucy says. Cool moves, said Michael, looking only at Rohan and not at me. Liz and I are starting Taekwondo together, Rohan says as he spins around and kicks. That's cool, Rohan. Then he turns to me and shakes his head. But Liz, really? He turns to the crowd. Taekwondo, isn't that a boy thing? Kids stop. And then some begin to laugh. That is so weird to say. No, girls can do anything, I say, and my voice shakes. Michael doesn't back down. He says more loudly and with a steady voice, but girls aren't into things like that. But I'm into this stuff. I love the term warriors, and they were women and they fought for freedom. Lucas and Aiden laugh again. Rohan looks down and doesn't say anything. Gershom and Lucy walk away. Boys like that stuff, Michael says, like he wants to bug me or something. I drop my hands and my cheeks feel flushed. I don't say anything. Am I the strange one? For once, I'm not so excited to be the center of attention.
Lexi. And so now I think we're going to move on to questions and answers, and I invite Jodi.
Well, that was an awesome reading. I felt like I was in a play and you were on center stage and you had us all at your fingertips. That was amazing. So now we are entering the second part of our program of the book launch, and we are going to start our question and answers because we need to know so much from our Linda here about the series, how she came about writing it. And the special guest, Evan, here is going to start with the very first question. So if you're ready, Evan, you can take it away.
What do you like most about being being an author?
Oh, thank you, Evan. That's a really nice question. So what do I like most about being an author? Can I pick 2 things? Okay. I would say it used to be my favorite thing to actually write. So Evan, do you know what it feels like when you're making your comic books or when you're doing your Lego and you feel like everything is just like really exciting, you lose track of time. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that about writing, where I can just be in the flow of things are working. It's just fun. It's something fun that I like doing, that I just want to keep doing. That makes sense? That's good?
Yeah.
And so now, I would almost say, now that I'm publishing things and I have these books out and people are starting to read them, I would almost say my favorite thing is when people tell me that they like the books. You like that answer?
Yeah.
And to the point of it connected with them. It was something that that made sense to them. When Hai has read the drafts, and she tells me that it makes her cry, I really like that. It's like, oh, that's so nice. That's so good. Or when Auntie Myrna has read them, and she tells me she really likes a part because she wants like her girls to have that kind of relationship. So I think that's like my favorite now. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, honey. That was a good question.
Thank you so much, Evan. That was perfect, and actually perfect way to start. So if you want to go sit down again, we're going to do musical chairs one last time, and we're going to get right into the meat and the matter. And at some point, we're going to put our friend Linda here right on the hot seat. Thanks. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I think that only a writer would admit that it gives them great joy to make people cry. I think that's fantastic.
Jodi, you've been there, I'm sure. It's like
Such power and such good honesty, because that does mean, and I gotta say, I cried in these books too. Linda, as when you get to read her novels, you're really going to feel connected with the worlds that she's created in there, and these characters, because they come from her heart. And that is the best kind of writing a person can ever read. So congratulations. Okay,
Number two.
Okay, so now here comes the first question. No tears here. In this book series, your topics are really things that are often uncomfortable to discuss and hard to even bring up into discussion. And the topics that Linda writes so well about are things like microaggressions, racism, sexism, gender bias. And I wanted to know, how did you pick this age group to write for? And how did you know that these kids would be ready for your novels?
Thanks for the question, Jodi. I think, well, for the age group, I think it's really these kids, the kids at this age, starting to read independently, maybe grade 1, grade 2, they're starting to, figure out themselves, develop, they are finding their own freedom outside of their parents, their peer group is much more important. So it's also perhaps that they're experiencing things for the first time, and might be these things are uncomfortable for them. So I think it's important to have stories to showcase that, where it's like, yeah, we have funny stories, we have stories that are about adventure, but also stories where, what is going on here? Like, what are these things that are happening? Who can I talk to about it? And yeah, the second part of the question, like, I didn't really think about readiness. I just thought more around, these things are already happening. Either we want to talk about in terms of microaggressions or people that they know who are being mean to them, people that they know who are making them feel uncomfortable, who are pointing out how different they are. And so because I just kind of wanted to reflect what is actually happening, because these things are happening, let's talk about it then. Let's find a way to discuss it. Perhaps then, there's some models of behavior, there's some concrete examples. And yeah, isn't that the power of story, really?
Yes, it is, Linda. It is the power of story, and you've done it very well. My next question is kind of a two-parter. So you can answer it one at a time. You can blend it in as you do so marvelously because, you know, you're a writer, so you can handle this. I want to know how you dealt with these heavy topics. And specifically, I want to know how you knew how deep to go with the adult racism that happens in the book. And specifically, there's a scene that you'll all get to read about, and it's a scene between Anne, so it's the first book, and her ballet teacher.
Ooh, okay. I think with this one, it was a little bit of trying it and seeing how it worked. I wrote many, many drafts, many different scenes, and then having trusted readers look at them first, having Lexi look at them, and just really for, is this believable? Does this make sense that something like this could look like that? And then also working with my editor at ANIC and just getting her feedback, trying to incorporate that. But something with like racial microaggressions or the things that happen with young kids and people who are in positions of power, like you talk about the ballet teacher. This is somebody who people say, you should listen to this person has expertise, they have experience, they're in a position of authority. And so when I talked about it, it's really difficult to, like, the challenge was to capture, well, it's the tone of your voice, it's the look that you give. So how is one supposed to describe, well, I'm not really sure how Mrs. Smith makes me feel if that was Anne. How do I describe that? So I really wanted to make it concrete, that Anne was experiencing, you know, her heart rate sped up and her cheeks were flushed. And so what that could actually feel like. So for readers who have had that experience, it's like, yeah, I see that. You know, that's what how it senses for me. And if you, a reader who hasn't had that experience, it's like, okay, I can imagine that happening. So it was a lot of, trying it out.
And I think, because I had the pleasure of reading the first draft and seeing how that was going through, and I'm not Vietnamese, as you might know. And so when we were working together on this, I had a lot of, well, I think this might be, maybe you should word it this way, but a lot of it I had to leave to you. So I'm kind of wondering, when your further edits, when you're working with other readers, did you draw on a community like your Vietnamese community to read, to say, hey, this seems right to me? Was that part of your process?
I would say my trusted readers were very close to me. It was Ryan who had to read them all, and it was around points of logic and, you know, does this make sense that kids would do this? I had my really good friend Myrna look at them, and she has expertise in child development, child psychology. So we both love to overanalyze everything in life. And so it was around well, does this make sense? Could this occur this way, that a 9-year-old would have this experience, and it lingers, and they think about it again, and it affects their life as well. So there was part of it. And then my sister also offered that aspect of, yes, this is a Vietnamese girl. She's living in Winnipeg, and her parents were also born here, but her grandparents did not. So all that piece of that factor of identity, being Vietnamese, having that culture, does that make sense too?
Well, you did a great job. Just gonna tell you that. So I really wanted to know, with Anne's story, was there something that happened or an event that inspired you and inspired the story?
Well, it was, thinking back to last year again, January of last year, we were in the middle of the pandemic. You know, things were happening in the world. What really came through for me was like the rise in anti-Asian racism, and how it was bubbling up in North America. How people from Asian descent were being called names, being spit upon, having a lot of violence done to them. And so really, if I was thinking about writing for young readers, how could I add to that conversation? And I think some of that is being the other, having that fear of the unknown, not thinking that people who are different are also part of your community. So again, trying to make it realistic and concrete in a story form. Well, this is how it could look like. And yeah, these are the effects of it.
Yeah, and I can't say anything because you haven't read the book yet, but I just thought this story has stuck with me. I've read the first two. I haven't got the third one quite yet, hoping that happens soon. But it is a book that has a lot of meaningful impact. Now we have to, because I'm looking at the time here, and if we don't give the middle child enough attention, she's gonna be very cranky. And so we have to move on to Liz and the power of the pearl earrings. And so with Anne, the focal point in there was racism, amongst other things. And with Liz, I think we would say that she's dealing more with gender bias, which again sounds like a very grown-up term, but kids of all ages deal with this from very young ages. And so from a kid's point of view, what would that look like? And can you explain it to us in the classroom, the playground, and in friendship groups?
I'm glad we moved on to Liz. I think she would be very appreciative of that now it's like her time. She can talk about her story. For that, I would say kids who identify as girls, kids who identify as boys, are boys better than girls? Are they seen as being smarter? Do they get more attention? Are they more important? I wrote a scene in the book that Michael, the new kid who comes to school, the golden boy, and he speaks very confidently, and he looks like he probably came out of a children's clothing catalog. Liz starts to wonder, like, how come like the teacher pays more attention to him? Everyone seems to like him. There's a scene where, well, I put up my hand to answer these questions, but so did Michael. So why is the teacher always, asking Michael? So then other ways it could be showcased in the school or in the classroom is sports. So one of the things that I noticed when Lexi was younger, and she was doing indoor soccer, and so there was a point in time that she moved to girls only soccer, and I think that made sense because the boys stopped passing the soccer ball to her. So it just shows up in little ways, but these little ways have an impact. And then, as we know, as women, as we grow up and in volunteering situations, in the workplace, it's still there, that gender bias.
Yes, unfortunately it is. Yeah. My youngest had the same thing with soccer because boys wouldn't pass, so she went to the girls' team. And that's unfortunate that happens, right? But dealing with it at this age is important because kids see that, then they can find ways to combat it and fight against it. So talking about Michael, this new kid that comes to school, and he completely disrupts the friendship group. And I wanted to know, this is another two-parter.
So tough.
I know, I've been working on this. I want to know, has that ever happened to you when you were a kid? And if it hadn't, where did this idea come from?
It wasn't something that specifically happened to me, but when I was thinking about what the story would be about, again, looking at what happens with kids, I do think that kids' friendship groups, they are fluid, they change. And sometimes when they change, it can be really dramatic. It can be tough and some feelings can get hurt. So when I was thinking about it in the context of Liz and her personality, and this would be very disruptive to her because she is trying to find a place in her family. Her friends are very important to her. And so what would that look like for her? And then with this extra aspect of she's not being excluded, the reason why she's being excluded, so she thinks, so Michael says, is that she's a girl and they just want to play with the boys. So again, what is the effect on that for someone that age?
Okay, so my next question really deals with all of the full series. And it's about the reverence that you have for ancestors in the book. And it's important throughout the first two books, and I know from speaking with you, it carries on into book 3 and 4. And I wanted to know how you decided to include a supernatural element, and then how you went about weaving that with the cultural aspect.
Well, I knew when I was going to write the series that it would be from a Vietnamese perspective. And so from a Vietnamese perspective, there had to be lots of family, and also there had to be ancestors. I grew up in a tradition that my father passed away when I was 7 years old. So in my mom's house, there is an altar dedicated to him. And so I have grown up in that tradition, and I really wanted to showcase that. Whether I write for adults or for children, fiction or nonfiction, I am really called to speaking around spirituality, the sacred, and how that works into ordinary life, the unknowable. So when I was thinking about this series, I knew that I wanted to weave aspects of that as well. Part of that is the gifts that are passed down from Grandma Noi. And so I wanted to use those as like anchors as well. It's like, well, we're going to talk about something that's hard to talk about. I guess I love to put into books things that are difficult.
You do it really well, so we're going to let you do that.
But the gifts were very tangible, very concrete things that were part of the tradition, that linked them to the past, and that's what the power and the magic happened through.
Well, and she's done it really beautifully. And that kind of leads nicely, because I have a couple of questions about the illustrations. And the illustrations really took all of her words and created magic with it. So when she talks about the spirituality and Grandma Noi coming back, just the way that is illustrated in the book is absolutely breathtaking. And I know when we talked a little bit about this before we got here today, of course, the illustrator's last name is Nguyen as well. So of course I was like, well, wow, how could that possibly be? So I wanted to know what it was like working with him.
Yeah, Clayton did a really great job. I think it was meant to be, right? The piece that I read out from him and that my daughter reminds me is in about the author, about the illustrator, that he came from a family with 2 older sisters, and he was the artsy youngest sibling. And then having the last name as well, it's like, it's perfect. And so when Annie Press was looking at illustrators and talking to me about it, it was really important to me and to them that they were trying to look for somebody who had Vietnamese descent. And working through it, I was able to look through the different stages of illustration. I think it was like thumbnails, roughs, and then final art.
Yeah.
And it was a very collaborative process. I was able to give feedback through each of those stages. And most of the time it was like, this looks amazing. Just wow, it captures that well. I would say one of the things, and I think this is just me and also attention to detail, there is, in Liz's story, her gift is the pearl earrings. So there are parts in the story where it is really important. Is she wearing the earrings? Is she not wearing the earrings? So I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I have to go through each of them. Where does it fit in the story? Is she supposed to be wearing earrings? Do those look like earrings? So that's also just me as well, having to do that.
Okay, so I think it's kind of funny that before you were talking about the signs, right? The signs, yes. You should do things. You're like, Ryan, it's a sign. Well, perhaps the sign of him having the Nguyen last name was like really a big sign.
Yes.
I might not even miss that one. So I wanted to know, do you have a favorite illustration?
Oh. I love all of the illustrations where there are big family scenes, where there are having the dinner and there's just so much going on. And I can imagine how challenging that was for Clayton. Thanks, Clayton, because they are involved in each of the books. They have to, there's the food and all the people and just all of the details. But I would have to pick my favorite illustration from Liz's book, because I think she would appreciate that. There is one picture of the 3 siblings, and they are all hugging each other. And just the expression on their faces and their body language. You'll have to really see it.
Well, I thought it was funny that you said all the families, because I picked my favorite, which is a family scene. And it's near the end of the book, but I didn't think that's not, you know that this is gonna happen, right? And because Grandma Noy's there, and it's so beautifully drawn. So congratulations. Okay, so now we have some rapid fire questions. So these are the questions that Linda cannot even pause. She just has to answer super fast, because fast questions get answered super fast. Okay, so you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Plotter or pantser?
Plotter.
Sweet or salty?
Both.
Ebook or paper?
Ooh, both.
It's not an option. It's an either or. Okay, focus.
Okay. The rules are explained again. Okay, all right, I'll try.
Dog or cat?
Neither.
Bird?
Fish?
It counts. It counts.
Okay.
Summer or winter? It's gonna be fall.
Summer. Okay, I picked one.
Okay, earrings or bangles?
Earrings.
Pomelo fruit or grass jelly chair?
Both together.
Cheater. That's awesome. Well done. Okay, we have two
Thank you.
final questions before we open up the floor to the audience, because I'm sure there's loads of people out there that have burning questions for you. So we all need to know this. What other projects are you working on? We want to know what's up next for you.
Well, I want to talk about the rest of the Nguyen Kids series. So the third book is The Mystery of the Painted Fan, and that will follow youngest sibling Jacob and his story, and that's going to be released April 2023. It's available for pre-order right now through McNally Robinson's website, so thank you very much. And that, for his story, he will be 8 in the story. He's a hockey player, and he will question gender expression, gender stereotypes. And then the fourth book that I am trying to revise currently will be hopefully released fall 2023, and that will be alternating perspectives of all of the kids. So it'll be chapters and Liz Jacob, and it'll be their first trip ever to Vietnam and the adventures that they get themselves into there. So looking forward to finishing those. The signs. From last January, the project that I was querying to publishers, I have found a home for my memoir. So my memoir will be published by Guernica Editions, Mirrorland imprint. So I'm really excited about that. Stay tuned for that. It's my personal spiritual journey, and just how that going through motherhood and work and travel and spirituality. And right now, the project that I'm working on, that I put aside for a little bit, that I hope we'll come back to, is also for kids, for early readers. I'm looking at an urban fantasy, more adventure style, a team of kids and their magical animals that'll be based on Vietnamese mystical creatures. And then they will harness all their powers to be able to help change the world and serve their community and just have a lot of fun along the way.
That's a lot. You answered actually both questions I had, so
Sorry, Jodi, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You're the author. You can do whatever you want, right? It's your night. So I think we need to give her a round of applause because she survived the hot seat. So we're going to ask John to creep out from behind the, there he is. And we'll open the floor to questions.
And just a reminder, if you put up your hand, I'll wander over to you. You ask me the question, and then I'll repeat it into the microphone. And we have a question over here. Linda, why did you decide to become a children's author?
Thanks for the question. I think that when I was growing up here, I came to Canada when I was 3 years old. And so I remember this, I know Canada as home. And I really wanted to read a lot of books. That was something that I was really interested in. I think a lot of writers are readers. And while I found books that I enjoyed and characters that I felt drawn to, I also didn't see characters who had the same experiences I had. So part of it was I could relate to, like, say, Anna Green Gables. And I was there with her, but at the same time, it's like, well, where are my stories? And so when I was looking for stories for my kids as well, and trying to find things that, some were there. It's like, well, what an amazing industry to be a part of, right? To write for young readers who are just going through their own things and have their own worlds and their own situations and problems as well. So I'm just really honored to be doing that. Thank you for the question.
And children's writers are the best writers.
Yes,
I agree.
yeah, go Jodi.
Why did you write the books about those children?
I think I was thinking about like 3 children in a family. I thought was a really interesting dynamic. It would be really interesting too, because sometimes when you have 2 children, it's, they're a pair together, they can get along, not get along, but 3, it's like, well, that changes everything, I think. So I thought it would just be really interesting to have that and just to kind of explore that it was an odd number of children, but also children of different genders. And it was something that I could really write a lot about. Thank you. I'm getting all the hard questions from the kids.
How long did it take you to write all the books?
So, Ryan, do you have our spreadsheet or?
Where's our spreadsheet?
Okay, I'm just going to try to remember. I've been writing them really consistently since January of last year. So I would say Anne's story, I think I sent that to you April of last year. Yeah. So I think that one I finalized in the summertime, and I went right into writing the second one, which I think I finished early this year to be ready to be printed and published. And the Jacob story I finished maybe the summer or fall of this year. At the same time, I was writing, starting the 4th book and trying to finish that by the end of the year, hopefully. Thank you.
What character can you relate to most and why?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Too harder.
Why? That's why. I would have to relate to the mom of the. It's a tough position to be in, I think. I think I tried to make all of the characters as individuals who were distinct and had their own personalities, but really I'm writing it. The parents in the book are around the same age as I am. So writing it from that perspective, it's like, well, there are expectations that I think parents place either knowingly or unknowingly onto their kids. And in the first book, Anne is doing ballet because her mom always wanted to do ballet, but she never got a chance to do ballet because when they moved as immigrants, that wasn't what they were doing. So I really wanted to write that in as also a believable character that had their own dreams and challenges. Thank you.
Here is a contentious question. Which book do you
Of
like?
course.
What type of books do you like writing better? Books for kids or books for adults?
Ooh, books for kids, for sure.
That's the right answer.
If you ask me in my memoir series, my memoir launch, I'm not sure what I'll say. Both. I do really like both. I think there is something common to it, the craft of writing dialogue, writing things that will connect to audiences. But I do love the variety in it, thinking about structure, the changes of that, the pacing, how plot works, and how something else may work out. So I do like when I'm writing that I have those differences. Thank you.
How did you choose Anne and Liz as the character names?
It's like a plant. After, I think I had the characters' names. That was one of the first things I had. And when you read the books, in each of the first three, that is answered in the books. Anne was named after Anne of Green Gables. Liz, Elizabeth, is from The Paperback Princess, and Jacob is from Jacob Tutu Meets the Hooded Bang. So these are Canadian stories, and so I really wanted it to be an anchor to Canadian identity as well, that this was something that their parents was important to them. Thank you.
And we do have time for one more question. If anyone out in the audience or anybody watching on YouTube has a query. Is there a dramatic final question? All right, apparently you may have satisfied everybody's curiosity tonight. So if you folks have any closing comments you might like to make, I'll turn the floor over to you and then return to go over signing procedure.
I just want to do thank yous again, but they'll be quicker this time. Just thank you so much to Magali Robinson, to John for being a great host. For Jodi, I can't thank you enough for being part of this journey. It's been so amazing to work with you, to get to know you, but also to plan this launch. There are cookies, so please help yourself to one. Cookies by Darcy, thank you so much. Lexi wants me to mention as well that she was the designer of the cookie based on my specifications. She is a much better artist than I am. Thanks to you, Lexi, and thanks to Evan for being part of the launch. That was amazing to be able to share the space with both of you. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching online, for being here in this room. I'm going to start to cry again if I go over it too much, but being part of this community, it means so much to me. Thanks.
Thank you both so very much. We'll now be moving along to the signing portion of the evening, so I'll ask you all just to remain seated for one moment while we safely transport Linda over to a table beside the cash desk. We have copies of both books there on the table. We have copies of both books at our cash desk as well, so please do pick up copies of one of those two locations. You can get the book signed before you pay for them. Just please do remember to pay for the books at some point this evening. One thing to point out is that I will be walking down the line to write down your name on a Post-it note. Now, this is because of something particular that comes over authors' brains when they're at a book launch, and everybody from every aspect of their life is suddenly gathered in a single place. You can look at a brother, you can look at a sister, and simply blank on their name immediately. So this will just ensure that you can spend time pleasantly chatting at the table without any additional stress for Linda over the course of the evening. So please do not be alarmed when I approach you with a marker and a Post-it note. I will reiterate the fact that there are very delicious looking cookies over at this table, so please do help yourself on your way out as well. I can see half the crowd rise up to you, just at the small wooden table right here. And I'd just like to close once again by thanking everybody who watched online. There's many kind words that came in that I'll share with you later on, Linda. And all of you here tonight for your attention, for your patience. It's been really lovely spending the evening with you. I'd also like to express sincere gratitude to Amic Press for publishing these books with more to come. And of course to the inimitable Jodi Carmichael for all her interrogative talents. and to Evan and Lexi for all of their contributions this evening as well. Please join me one final time in acknowledging Linda Trinh.